James Creedon, Resident Ready to Go Media Watch. Good evening to you, sir.
Hi, Mark.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Now then, starting with the backlash, hoo-ha, genuine concerns of many, I think, over this anti-rioter law approved today by a massive majority by the lower house in France. Now, many people worried this could give ammunition to, say, a future far-right administration to be even more heavy-handed with people's liberties and people's freedoms.
That's right. And one of the words that appeared a lot in the headlines today was liberticide, which is a French word meaning killing of freedom. It's a kind of, there is no equivalent in English, I guess you could say, but is the anti-rioting law, does it kill freedoms, basically? And so that's the question that's being asked. A lot of articles are answering in the affirmative. And indeed, we saw Amnesty International a couple of days ago coming out and condemning that French anti-vandal law. One of their spokespeople, Nicolas Camaillet, said that the first thing is that this law represents a big return to the administration forbidding the right to protest, and it gives all the power to political and police authorities to determine if someone has a right to protest or not. And they've added on other things as well, such as you can't have a scarf over your face, or you can't half cover or fully cover your face.
That's always been the case, hasn't it?
Unless it's for legitimate reasons, they say. So I'm wondering where, for example,
or say a carnival,
tear gas would fall in that particular case.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it does seem like it's giving the police a lot of power to interpret situations like that in a favourable way to them and in a way that's perhaps unfavourable to demonstrators. In any case, Amnesty International criticising it. You also have French human rights bodies that have been criticising it as well, saying that actually the legal mechanisms are already there for the authorities to deal with situations such as this. The judicial arsenal already exists to deal with rioters who demonstrate in a way that goes beyond what is acceptable. So you've had Mediapart, they've been very critical of this as well, the left-leaning website, why France's planned anti-rioter law threatens citizens, not criminals. In other words, the constitutional right to protest, which is enshrined in French law, European law and elsewhere, is really being attacked. You even had one centrist MP by the name of Charles de Courson who had an outburst in Parliament. And he said this is a return to Vichy France with legal changes such as this. So look, that'll tell you the extent to which, Mark, that it's really got on people's nerves.
Strong feeling, but I think that's a bit far, isn't it?
Perhaps a bit far. 50 of the majority MPs abstained from the vote. So even within Emmanuel Macron's majority and the Modem alliance, there were a lot of people who weren't happy about this.
Okay, and of course, this all a response to the yellow vest protests.
That's right.
And the violence
trying
that's
to have
been
means of
enmeshed within that, and obviously this is kind of the government response, so we'll monitor that and see how it works. Now, to a social media storm kicked off by a Hollywood actor by the name of Liam Neeson, who admitted to having racist impulses.
That's right.
Following the rape of a friend. Why did Liam Neeson speak about this when it happened some 40-odd years ago, it says here?
Well, he was promoting a film called Cold Pursuit. So this has come into the whole discussion around it. Was this a somewhat cynical bid to draw attention to the film through controversial kind of revelations? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. In any case, what he is saying is 40 years ago, he found out this about a friend, questioned her about the profile of the person, and for 4 days he was so livid that he was ready to take revenge on anyone of that ethnic background, happened to be black. But he said if it had been something else, he would have had that same hatred towards whatever other ethnicity it might have been. In any case, it's 40 years ago and he doesn't feel that way anymore, right? But
so his impulse was governed by the fact that his friend, a woman, was raped by someone who was black, by a man who was black. Yes. And so that's kind of pushed him towards making this racist statement. So, and the issue being, if in any other colour, it would have been the same thing, the same feeling.
That's what he was. What he was doing, I think, was trying to give an insight into hateful thinking, which can lead to hateful actions. And he said, "Look, I was there or thereabouts. Luckily, nothing happened, and I got under control of my impulses before something happened. But this was my inner process 40 years ago. I went and spoke to people. I got myself sorted out. And he was talking about that in the context of this film called Cold Pursuit, which deals with the notion of retribution or revenge, one of the characters. And so there was a question, how did you get inside that character?
Okay.
So that's the background, but you had a lot of people, Piers Morgan and others, saying that if you talk like a murderous racist, then you are a murderous racist. I mean, one simple point you could make there is that it's 40 years ago.
On his own statements about what kind of a person he is. That's how.
There you go. But it did set off a big debate. You had, for example, in the US, representatives or spokespeople of the NAACP, the African American Association, saying pain suffered. In other words, he was giving an explanation for why he felt this way. Is not an excuse for racism, and a lot of people agreeing with that sentiment. You had then in England, you had John Barnes, who actually defended Liam Neeson, said, look, he was ashamed. He was trying to explain what happened 40 years ago, and he's ashamed of it. So don't call him a racist.
I know John Barnes. I know John Barnes quite well. And his line is that if you castigate someone who said it, you've got to castigate those who feel it and haven't said it. And his line is that there's so much hidden racism, which is still there anyway, and expresses itself in a different way. John Barnes' take is really quite nuanced, and he's very interesting.
And I guess a lot of the time in Twitter storms like this, there's a lack of nuance.
Sure.
First of all, the shortness of
Except
the form.
from you.
Right, well, we try to pad it out a small bit.
James, sorry, we need to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. James with the Media Watch. Kate with the Business, as ever. Thank you and thanks to you for watching. Stay with us, please. More to come here live from Paris.